Welcome to Hope is Here. We've been talking about a really heavy topic. That's why we started Hope is Here. We're talking about when you lose a loved one to suicide. And we've been talking with Dawn Drummon. She's the twin sister of Jim Howard, whose life ended prematurely back in January. He was a pastor out at Real Life Church in Valencia, California, and really wonderful guy. I had the pleasure and privilege of knowing Jimmy, and we have Facebooked some over the past couple of years. But if you missed these first two programs, you need to go listen to those. They're only 14 minutes long. Go to our website, hopeishere.today, and you can hear about Jim's wonderful life and the many blessings that he was to so many people, and then also to share Dawn as she shares as a survivor's twin sister what this has been like. And so go take a listen to those. It's at hopeishere.today. Well, Dawn, we're almost, not quite, but getting upon 6 months since Jimmy left us. And, one of the things I love about you, you're a school teacher, so you're a learner, you're a teacher, so you poured yourself into, okay, this is not what I wanted, don't know why, but I know I can't let this take me under. Right. So share, if you will, some of the resources, some of the things that have helped you as a survivor of losing someone the way you did with your twin brother, Jimmy.
Sure. At the beginning, the outpouring of love was one thing I think that kept my family afloat, so to speak. Just having, God really had people come and embrace us, and it was like a manifestation of him coming and embracing us. But after a time, you have to do some other things to deal with that. My sister, my mom, and my sister-in-law and I went into counseling. We all got our own separate counselors for what we were looking for, so we could talk to somebody about what was going on. Some resources that that have been more beneficial to me have been kwarren.com. Kay and Rick Warren lost their son to suicide. I believe it was 7 years ago, and they're Rick Warren's the pastor at Saddleback Church in California. And I knew the name. I knew he'd written A Purpose-Driven Life, but I didn't know that they had a son that had committed suicide, and that she had a website with all these resources. And so there was a book on there called Grieving a Suicide by Albert HSU, I'm not sure how you would pronounce it, who was a Christian who lost his dad to suicide, and it was very helpful. I read that book. I've read some things on Kay Warren's website. One is about a year after her son committed suicide, she did an interview and was just talking about all the things she felt in that year. And everything she said, I was like, yes, that is how I feel. That is how I feel. And just reading the experience of someone who's been through it was cathartic for me. It was very helpful. And she has a ton of links on her website, a ton of information. There's Alliance of Hope, and there's a specific place on Alliance of Hope where they have information for survivors of loved ones that have committed suicide. And one of the things they had on there was 25 suggestions for survivors that I found to be really helpful. There's all sorts of videos on there of people who have talked about losing loved ones to suicide and all the emotions that they have felt, and just hearing other people talk about that has really helped me. And sometimes I go back and I watch Jimmy's sermons in this age of social media. They're still out there, and just kind of, that's a way of still kind of having him a little bit.
Absolutely.
So those are the things that have helped me the most, talking about him when I need to, whether it be with family members or my husband or my sister-in-law, and just keeping him alive, I guess, in our memory. But those were the resources that I found to be most helpful.
Well, I looked at Kay Warren's website, kwarren.com. Her husband, as you shared, Rick Warren, one of the largest churches in the country, Saddleback Community Church, and he's got a podcast, and he's actually live on WJMM 99.1 FM that we're on right now. His programs, if I listen to his podcast of his sermons, he's a phenomenal, gifted teacher. And as you said, they lost their son tragically that way, so they can relate. But her website, kwarren.com, is phenomenal. You shared, I clicked on their menu, and under initiatives, and there was topics of mental health, suicide, grief, and then also pastor's wife. So, man, there's a plethora of information, and I know that's one of the things that I think because of online, but, when something happens like this, you wonder what resources are there. And so I'm glad that kwarren.com would encourage you to check that out. You shared a little bit yesterday about the semicolon campaign, and its theme is Your Story Is Not Over. You can go to their website, projectsemicolon.com, and there's a lot of good stuff on that website too, isn't there?
There is. And the menu can be a little overwhelming, that I don't mind going and clicking and trying to figure out for myself, but there's a lot of good stuff on both of those. And that's how, like you said, I'm a teacher, I'm a learner, so for me, that's what helps the most is reading, watching videos, taking in what other people have experienced, and thinking about, well, how can I apply that to my life? Absolutely.
So I know there's people listening that think, I've had a friend, coworker, a neighbor, somebody that's gone through this. You're like, I don't know what to do. Well, hey, go check these websites out, kwarren.com and projectsemicolon.com, and there's some great resources there.
If I could add allianceofhope.org too, it has what you can say to someone who has lost someone to suicide. Oh. So there's a lot of good tools on all of those.
Yeah, because I know there's a lot of people listening say, man, I hurt for this friend, this coworker, this neighbor, but I don't know what to say. But these websites help you with that. And I think the biggest thing is just letting people know you care. And Wayne Smith, my hero, said once, he said to me after I went through the flood, bankruptcy, and divorce in my mid-30s, and he said, I hurt because you hurt. And that spoke volumes to me. I hurt because you hurt, and I want to say to somebody listening, if that's how you feel with a friend, loved one, man, just text them that. Call them. Tell them that. Send a card. Do that. With all the junk mail we get and bills in the mail, man, when I get an old-fashioned card of thank you or encouragement or even birthday as far as that goes, but just, it just means so much, doesn't it?
And, it does. And I have a friend that she'll just text me a heart when she's thinking of me. And I know that she's thinking of me, and that's enough. It doesn't have to be a message. She just sends me a heart.
That's great. We can all do that. It takes 15 seconds. I laugh. My mom's 74 years old, and she's sharp, and she is the queen of emojis. She's amazing, but you can say so much. Just a heart. Let you know they love you and they're thinking about you, right?
Absolutely.
And you can give somebody hope during a day for that. Some of the lessons that you share with me when we met a couple of weeks ago, Don, you said, as you walked through this journey with losing Jimmy, your twin brother, you said one, extending grace to yourself. Talk a little bit about that.
I think that's the hardest for us. I really try to extend grace to other people because you never know what they're going through. And you hear that a lot, and that's good, but I think sometimes we overlook extending grace to ourselves. And when we do something, I shouldn't have said that. Did I sound dumb saying that? What are other people thinking about that? And in reality, 99% of the time, nobody else is thinking about what you said. They're doing the same thing in their head. I wish I hadn't said that. And so I think a lot of times we don't extend grace to ourselves. We feel like we let people down when we make mistakes instead of realizing mistakes are part of our growing experience. They're going to happen, and that's what keeps us moving forward and changes our story sometimes for the better. So giving grace to yourself and knowing it's okay not to be perfect. You're going to fall short. I mean, it says you're going to fall short all the time, and you have to kind of accept that.
Well, I think that's a word for somebody, extend yourself some grace. That may be the best thing you could do today. Another thing that you shared that has helped you is you have what you call them hope verses.
Mm-hmm. So this is from Kay Warren. She talked about she has this jar that she puts any verse that kind of gives her hope about her situations, I believe specifically dealing with the suicide of her son. She writes that on a slip of paper and puts it in the hope jar. And when she is feeling sad and needs that reassurance or that hope, she reads through those verses. And then she also has a mystery jar for any questions that she has that she knows she's not going to get the answer to this side of heaven, writes them down and puts them in that. And I thought, what a great idea. What a great way to collect those verses and keep them. And on a day where you're feeling particularly sad, you can go back and look at those promises in those verses. And also knowing I have this question. And I think God is big enough for those questions. And, maybe this is my mystery jar. These are things that I know I'm going to put it away because I know I'm never going to get the answer now. But one day, I'll get the answers to those questions. Yeah. And, in 20 years, it might not matter, the answer to those questions. I've often wondered why with Jimmy, and I've gotten to the point where it really, I don't need to spend my energy on that. It doesn't matter why Jimmy did what he did. I'm heartsick about it. It makes my stomach drop down every time I think about it. But the reality is he did it, and knowing why is not going to change anything. So now I just try to move on and help my family deal with it and move on.
A couple of verses, though, you shared Romans 8:28 and a verse in Genesis that you're trying to focus on during this healing process and trying to move on, as you said. Share those with.
Sure. Well, one thing is I believe that God's still using Jimmy. I believe that he's still using him to work in the hearts of others. And I've always loved Romans 8:28. All things work together for good to those that love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. And I really do think all things work together, no matter what the circumstance. It can work for good. And then Genesis 50:20, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. And I feel like those particularly attain to Jimmy. He made a horrible, horrible decision. But that's not his story. His story is not the minister that committed suicide. And I thank you for letting me share about him. People that know him know how much he loved people. I think that is his story. He loved people. He hurt just like everybody else. He made a bad decision. But I believe God can still use that to help the lives of many other people.
Amen. And the final things, we wrap things up here. I know one of the things you had shared with me when we met a few weeks ago is that, if somebody's hurting and or maybe they've already had to walk through what you've walked through, but you would be glad to meet with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's somebody out there that cares about you. I promise. And if you need a listening ear, I'm here.
All right. Well, that's Don Drummon. Thanks so much for being with us the past 3 days. Just a real blessing. And we love Jimmy, and I'm glad we got to honor him today. And, his life will live on. That's one of the reasons why we did this. And but if you want to talk with Don, you can reach us. You can go to our website, hopeishere.today, and there's contact information there, my email, phone number, and we can put you in touch with Don. But make sure you take advantage of these resources, kwarren.com, projectsemicolon.com. What was the other one you shared?
Allianceofhope.org.
Allianceofhope.org. So there's lots of resources. And most of all, if you're hurting today, where you are hurting so bad that you don't want to live, please reach out to one person or call 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255. I'm Greg Horn, and this is Hope is Here.
CMI is your full-service human resources provider in Central Kentucky. For 15 years, CMI Human Resources has taken great pride in helping organizations and people work. Whether it's employee handbooks or help in filling a position, no job is too large or too small for CMI. Contact the professionals today at CMI Human Resources, 859-296-2800, or online at cmiconsulting.com.